That button says we're on air.
Yes, it does. We're live.
Yes, and it's episode 25 of Plugged In.
Episode 25. A very special episode.
Yeah, the 25th one. It's almost magic. We've made it to 25, which is impressive enough.
Yes,
and something interesting happened. Dan, me and you usually talk about things to do with PlayStation. PlayStation did some
Normally. Yes. So today we had, it was an interesting day to wake up to.
And yeah, interesting is the word I'd probably use. I woke up maybe 40 minutes before the actual thing started. The actual thing had finished. So, I dialed back the live feed and just watched from the beginning. It was a very quiet, somber kind of theatre that they were presenting in, and we'll obviously touch into why we think that happened. But good news is, people with 4K things are going to be happy. Don't think many other people are.
Yeah, and people that like Mass Effect as well, they'll be happy to know they'll get a trailer soon. But that's bad, yeah.
Yeah, seeing some Mass Effect was fantastic. Like, we actually saw gameplay, which for the first time was brilliant, a good highlight. The PS4 Slim's a thing, as if we didn't know. It's been unboxed countless times on YouTube already, and covered by several different outlets. It was a foregone conclusion by this point, wasn't it? It was like, how do we whimper this out now? But for people who don't own a PlayStation and don't own 4K technology, I think they actually got jibbed a little bit. I expected it to come in cheaper than $299 US, but it's still cheap for the amount of content that's on that platform. Do you know what I mean? It's still not overpriced by any stretch of the imagination. So, winning there. No optical port. That's about the only downgrade. Everything else is business as usual in that console. So, not a lot to talk about there.
And the thing with this whole thing is, either most of us obviously come from fan side, and then you also got to come from Sony side as well to try and understand why they've done what they've done. Like, they didn't just make it up. Like, they had to have reasons for why they did things that they did. So I've been, like, most of today, I've been trying to get, because from a fan side, as someone that already has a PlayStation 4, I'm not getting this. You still hear me? You still hear me?
You were muted, I think.
No, I didn't do that.
I clicked the wrong button. I can hear you.
Sorry. As I was saying, as a fan of someone that already has a PlayStation, I don't want another one. I wasn't going to get one even before this announcement, but I was wanting them to try and convince me.
Yeah.
And in the end, it was, if you have a 4K TV, this might be good for you. And I was like, well, there you go. That didn't get me.
That's the thing, and it's why I'm quite glad that obviously we could have done with a few more of the guys here to talk with us, but I'm quite happy it is me and you, because we sit on the two different sides of that kind of spectrum. Like, I do have 4K devices. My TV, my monitor are both 4K devices, but I don't solely play on PlayStation. So it's kind of a weird place to be in. I have a graphics card capable of 4K in my PC. Like, is it even relevant to me? And looking through some of the actual it's not test footage, demo footage, isn't it? I was interested to see, just what it was capable of doing. And this morning, there was some. You can't ever see the native because everything's compressed, even if it's on YouTube and it's running in 4K. That's not going to be the experience you see on your screen. So it's as close as you can get. And the Horizon Zero Dawn one hadn't gone up yet. The Call of Duty one had, and the Spider-Man one had, I think. And they both look fantastic. But I mentioned to you just before we started this, I watched Horizon in pulled straight from the 4K output, and that game was pretty anyway, but Jesus Christ, like massive wow, like it looks insane. You'll have to remind me to get you to show you in a few weeks when you're down for the expo, but it's breathtakingly beautiful. Is it enough to warrant an upgrade for someone that does have screens to utilize it? I'm still not convinced. I really aren't.
And that's the thing, that the times you are going to notice it, it's like with just games in general, right? So like when Uncharted 4 comes out, or in previous generation when The Last of Us comes out, when it's a Sony-owned game and first-party studio making the game, they can get more out of it than a studio that's making a game for everyone. So like the ones you mentioned was Spider-Man, Horizon Zero Dawn are the ones where you noticed it the most, and they happen to be games that have been made for the PlayStation.
Yeah.
So
don't get me wrong.
Not going to happen on every game.
Yeah, Call of Duty still looked good. And the thing that got me with that, when they were doing their little sort of presentation piece, the guy from Activision, who didn't really seem to know what he was talking about, was very clearly just reading what had been put in front of him. But he stated that they were still dedicated to bring that same 60 frames per second action that Call of Duty is renowned for. And if you're going to upscale, which again is something I just want to touch on after this, to 4K and still maintain 1080p, that's 60 frames a second, that's pretty impressive. Like to pull that out of this console, which it's not stupidly powerful. Yes, it's nearly twice as powerful in terms of its GPU than the base PS4, but 4K 60 frames a second is pretty ridiculous if they're doing it, even if it is just upscaled. Like, it's not native. And that's where there's buzzwords and plays on words that are kind of, to the average consumer who maybe don't pay much attention to this industry as we do, or to people even, that do this for a living more than we do. We're in an environment where we listen to those things. We pay attention to what's going on in those circles. To the average consumer who just goes, oh shit, I've got a 4K TV. Now PlayStation's doing 4K. And it's like, it's kind of misrepresentative because they are, but they are upscaling a 1080p image to 4K. Think of the flack that Microsoft copped when they did some of the games at the start of this generation were running in 900p and being upscaled to 1080. Like, yeah. It was like, oh, you're trying to dupe people. It's mixed messaging. It's this, it's that, it's the other. And it's like, well, it's the same thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've got to be really careful.
I think in that case, everyone was wondering why is it continuously always on a lower resolution on Xbox One than PlayStation 4? I think that was more the argument back then. This one's but it is that thing of, well, it's 4K, but it's not really 4K.
It's still gorgeous. It's still totally gorgeous. It really is. Like, it's absolutely beautiful, but at the same time, I don't think they should be straight up saying this is for 4K because they're making it out as if it is native. It's not native. Like, it's a strange scenario that they chose to use the kind of words that they did. But there were elements, halfway sort of through explaining what it was, they did say, well, now it actually works like this, or it's been upscaled and rendered. Like those words did come out of people's mouths, which I was happy that they weren't, completely pulling the wool. But who's it for? That was my thing at the end of it. I was like, this is technically for me. Do you know what I mean? Like, it is for, I should be the one that's interested in getting this. I have the technology capable of utilizing it, but I don't want it. So how many more people are in my position of going, I'm not sold. Yeah, that'd actually be an increase in performance for me, but I'm not really bothered. So on the flip side of that, for someone in your position, like you said, you don't have a 4K TV, you've no reason to be invested in this console, and you're still not invested in it. But what would it have taken to actually go, yeah, this is worth it?
Well, even so, I don't even think you're the type of person they're going after either, because you already have a first model PlayStation. I don't think this is for anyone. This Pro is not for anyone to upgrade, except for the people that are fundamentally just like, I have to have the newest thing.
Yeah.
And this is when my business brain kind of kicked in, and I was like, okay, the Slim has been made for cheaper now. It's sold for cheaper, but even when you compare the Xbox One F to the PlayStation Slim, Xbox One S has a little bit more in it anyway. Sony is a manufacturing company, like they're a technology company. So they must still be making some money off this, no matter how many Slims they sell. And I
Oh yeah,
imagine that
the Slim definitely. Yeah, it's it was the Pro that I don't see how it did. Do you think they're selling that at a loss?
I don't think they're selling that at a loss either. But I feel like I get this feeling that they're not going. They know. I don't feel like Sony wanted to do this. I feel like they wanted to get through this generation with just releasing, you know, a slim version and then eventually a PlayStation 5. I don't think they wanted, because they know what other companies are up to, and I reckon when they heard that the Xbox One S was being made, they realized they needed to have something too, and they didn't expect a Scorpio to be coming out the year after.
Yeah,
So
it is.
it screams of something. It also makes me kind of understand now also what I think Sony are trying to do, which is going to be this thing of, all right, it's been 3 years. Here's a slim version of the original. Here's an upgrade version. And then in 3 years' time, PlayStation 5. So I think 2008, 19, you'll get PlayStation 5. By then, you'll know about Scorpio stuff after next year.
Well, it's supposed to be out next year. I mean, this is an industry that is literally, flooded with delays, but it's supposed to be out next year. Could they hold till 2019? That's another like 3 years, nearly 2.5 years.
Well, they spoke about a lot in the conference also that they're still talking in generations.
Mm.
They're not moving from that. Xbox One are going, nah, this is generations are no longer a thing. It's just going to be an adaptable process.
So but then can one live without the other?
I think so, because like as we're saying, we're getting this upgrade, and that's what it is. It's not a new console. It's not whatever it is. We're getting this upgrade, and then we're getting Scorpio next year. And then after 2 years on the market with Scorpio, it'll be, all right, and here's the PlayStation 5, big, messaging from Sony. It's like, here's your brand new console, which will be upgraded again. I think everything is moving towards, say, like the iPhone or the Android thing of how it's, you get your iPhone 6, and then the next year is the iPhone 6S, and then the year after is iPhone S, but it's just spanned over a longer period of time. So it's like, get your base PlayStation 4, 3 years later, here's an upgrade, and here's a slim version for the people that haven't got a PlayStation 4 this thing, and they're like, and all they worry about is the price of it. They're not actually, they don't know what games are on each console. They just kind of buy one because it's good for the family, or they're buying it for the kid, or whatever it is. And 3 years later, they get another one. I really don't think Sony wanted to have this upgrade of a console. I think they got sideswiped.
I think they got hugely sideswiped. We said that after E3 happened, that even as consumers, we were like, that was messaged a lot better than we thought it was. I wonder how Sony are feeling about this. And yeah, they obviously got, as you said, sideswiped. Just touching back onto the actual ins and outs of the Pro, are you happy with how it looks? It looks kind of a little bit like a sandwich.
Well, I mean, the first one looks like a sandwich in a way.
It looks like a pretty shit sandwich. If that's a sandwich, what sandwiches are you eating? Because that is literally a tiny sandwich.
It literally looks like, oh, by the way, here's the regular PS4. And just to show that we've added more to it, we're going to add another layer to it. That's literally what it looks like. It looks like, sure, an upgrade. As I said, I'm not getting one, but still, it's a box that sits in there. have we seen how big it is? Really interesting to see
Dimension
how.
dimension
Yeah.
wise, in terms of sort of width and length, it looks very much the same as the Slim, which is supposed to be, was it 20% smaller than the actual PS4?
Than the base model.
Yeah, than the base model. So, that could mean anything.
It's still okay. Well, that sounds like because the PlayStation 4 they have now fits like it's pretty small as it is. So I guess it's only going to be a little bit bigger than that. Which, yeah,
Yeah,
sure, it's a box as long
it's
as it
not
runs properly.
not exactly a huge device anyway, is it? But that's the thing. I don't think the form factor in terms of size was what they go. It's just a very strange shape. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
hey, I kind of look a little bit like a sandwich. Um,
I guess they're trying to be consistent.
Yeah, the ports and stuff on the back. Pleased that they did put the optical port back. Like, I'm very happy that that made its way back in, because I think that was really silly to take it out of the actual PS4. But I do understand, the devices that actually run through optical are not cheap on their own. So if you're buying that budget model, chances are it's because it's cheaper than, the Pro version in essence. So are optical port audio really going to be a problem for you? But
I mean, like someone that's going to buy, because they took it out of the Slim, and it's like the people that are buying a Slim aren't the type of people that are going to be using that optical port.
oh no, exactly. That's exactly what I mean.
But
like, it's not for those people, but it's nice to see it back nonetheless.
Interesting. They put a USB, another USB on the back of the Pro too, I believe. So it's still got the two at the front like normal, but they put an extra USB on the back, which I always think that's smart to have a USB on the back. Usually they take those out.
Yeah, I hate that it doesn't exist on the base one. That there's only the ones on the front. There isn't one at the back. But yeah, adding an extra one, totally fine. Like, it needs it. In terms of looking at the games and stuff that have been mentioned, so things like Shadow of Mordor are going to be brought back on up to sort of pro levels. Is there anything else you want to see brought up to that kind of spec, or you think might be brought up to that kind of spec?
See, I'm someone that doesn't give a shit about how good games look, right? Like I've said it on a bunch of these before, where it's like, as long as the game's good, I can get over whatever the frame rate and blah blah blah. It would be something miraculous to see when Uncharted 4 is done to that extent, because I already think that game just shows me, like, do we need an upgrade? Like, holy crap. So that would be interesting to see. As I said, when I get up to yours,
it was the same notion I had. That was the same notion I had with Horizon, because you look at Horizon, you think, shit, this game is gorgeous. And then I looked at it, as I said, running on the PS4 Pro, and that's the only thing at the minute that's making me go, wow, if I didn't already own a PlayStation, I totally get it for that. If obviously you're assuming this person hypothetically has the 4K TV, but it does look breathtaking. It's really, really nice.
But do you think it helps the fact that you had already seen Horizon before that, and then you got to see the 4K version, whereas something like Mass Effect, we haven't really seen anything. So how's their messaging? What do you think they should do as messaging further on when they show games at, say, E3 or whatever? How do you think they should show whether things are on a Pro or on a base? What do you think they should do?
I think they just always have to show it on the Pro, because if you start showing both, you're going to split your market, aren't you? It's not. I think it'd be massively, massively dangerous to start showing it on both side by side, because then those people who can't quite achieve the levels of, the Pro, and it depends on what they're streaming these shows in. So you're imagining we're sat there at E3, we're watching what's going on, and it's like running in PlayStation Pro and running on PlayStation 4, and they're side by side. That feed is probably only being output in 1080p anyway. So in that sense, does it matter?
Maybe not even.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. I reckon you show everyone, if a game is that pretty, and you show everyone a base model, it's like, this is what it runs like on a normal PlayStation 4, like or PlayStation 4 Slim. Yeah. And then they can be like, if you want to see the 4K version, you know, go to our YouTube channel or whatever and see the 4K version of it. Because that way you're showing it at its worst, and then you can go look it up if you want to see the updated stuff.
Exactly right.
It's like a PC.
That's what I did this morning, because you can imagine watching that stream. You're like, this doesn't look great. It looks okay. It doesn't look much different to what I'm used to seeing. And then you actually look at the native footage and you're like, fair enough.
And I think if they go by that through whether it's PSX or whether it's Video Game Awards or whatever, every time they come up, they're like, this is running on the baseline PS4. Because it's the only way to avoid confusion if everything's on that, because then you can only go up from there.
Yeah, so it is an interesting way of looking at it. So if you're not inclined to do anything with either of these devices, then you're not sold on either of them?
No, like the PlayStation 4 Slim is literally just the same but smaller. I don't know why I'd pay more money to get the same thing, because even if I trade it in, I'll still have to pay more to get the Slim, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't have anything 4K related. I'm not that involved in getting the highest of graphical ability. Otherwise, I would play on my PC. Like, if that's what you're after, and that's fine. People do that. But in terms of this midway through this PS4 life cycle, no, I'm going to wait 3 years, and I bet you there'll be a PlayStation 5, which I'll buy.
It will be interesting to see how that kind of does all pan out, obviously, in the coming years. But I'm totally with you. I do not see the need right now. I don't see the need for either of them. Let's see if there is a very marked difference between even something like, so I play a lot of FIFA. If FIFA looks 4 times better than it does on my Xbox, then you kind of go in, maybe a little bit more. Do you know what I mean? But it's got to actually have something that makes you go, wow. Like the HDR stuff, it's becoming a buzzword. It's the new 4K. It's like, HDR. They're patching every single PS4 in existence with the ability to use HDR. Okay, so my PlayStation 4 that's sat right here will
do it
anyway. So you take away another selling point. I think it does come back to, as you were saying about, they didn't want to do this. I think the minute that Microsoft turned around and went, this console that we're making, we're a year away from releasing it, announcing it properly. But this is what we're working on. This is what the project's titled. This is how powerful it's going to be. And Sony went, oh, shit. Because these things had to already be out of prototype. Do you know what I mean? They'd been out of prototype. They'd have been looking at manufacturing. It was a devastating sideswipe for them, I think. And I think they've just got to eat it. I don't think these things are going to sell well. They are trying to say, even for someone like you or I who own base PS4s, in they go, base PS4, that looks like that. Hey, if you looked at it over on the PlayStation Pro, now it looks like this. And there would be marginal differences, but differences enough to make you invest in a whole new machine? Probably not. If you don't own a PlayStation 4 and you don't own a 4K TV, are you going to fork out the extra, $100 US? Again, we're talking, I think it's 120 here. To have that little bit extra fidelity and taking up more of a footprint on your desk or your home cinema or wherever you got it set? I don't think you would. So yeah, I think if I was to wrap it into kind of a neat little bow, it'd be completely underwhelmed.
Yeah, specifically as a conference, there was no need. There was absolutely no need to have a conference about this. They could have just announced it. But I also think a lot of these issues for Sony are short-term, maybe short to mid-term issues that they have to deal with. like as I think since the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 have been on the market, I think there's been 4 months where Xbox One has outsold the PlayStation 4. And it'll be interesting to see now that this is coming out so soon, with the Slim out next week, I think, and then in November is the Pro. It'll be interesting to see how that affects sales between the different ones.
Yeah.
But long term, if it keeps selling the way it is, and if they're still making the profit, I don't think Sony will be sweating too much. It'll be next year when Scorpio's coming around to see, all right, how much people are really wanting an upgraded console, because internet likes to talk, but generally companies listen to money.
Yeah, and something that they really glossed over, I just thought then when you were saying about seeing what the demand is when the Scorpio arrives. The VR talk that they had, so you've sat through the full conference, I take it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the VR talk where it's like, and the PS4 Pro will allow them to, nearly double the resolution of some games on VR. That could be a selling point for somebody who's like, oh, I'm going to be really invested in VR. But I don't think that Sony are that invested in VR. Do you know what I mean? It's like, they're clearly invested enough to create a headset and stuff, but in terms of their core market is still going to be PlayStation 4, not PlayStation VR, because PlayStation VR is not going to have anywhere near the install base that PlayStation 4 has. So that's obviously logically where they're going to put their eggs, so to speak. But
more into the games than the hardware.
Yeah, so
in terms of VR.
What was the game that they showed up? I can't remember what it's called. It's where you're on like Mars or something and you're shooting
Farpoint.
Farpoint. Yeah, so that has had its textures rezzed up to 4K if you watch the sizzle reel. So the Pro's sizzle reel was showing all the games that were going to be playable in 4K, and that was one of them, which I thought was odd, but at the same time interesting. How shit is that game going to look on a base PS4? If you're making such a big deal that this has been done, like, oh, it's going to double the quality of the textures. Because to me, if I'd pre-ordered a PlayStation VR, I'd be sat there and going, okay, so it's going to look amazing. It's going to have twice the pixels. It's going to have twice the fidelity. It's going to be smoother. The frame rates are going to be faster. In something like VR, that is critically important. That's not like saying, oh, we're playing a shooter and it's clocking at 50 frames a second rather than 60. That's a bit shit. This is virtual reality where industry standard has set, unless you are getting 90 frames a second in each eye, most people would get nauseous. Not the everyday human couldn't withstand it. So things like I'd be asking all those kind of questions. I know that's really sort of deep diving into how they've put the message in.
Yeah, I do agree with you in a sense. I would also say it would be very rare for someone to have a PlayStation VR on a base console, and then they have a mate that's got the upgraded console, got the same game on VR as well. Like, I feel like when you try it on one, I'm not sure where you get the chance to try it on the other, because not a lot of people are going to have two PlayStation 4s sitting in the living room to even notice the difference.
I do more of the expectation. It's more expectation than the comparable. Oh, I've been to my mate's house, it looks like this. I come home and it looks like shit. It's more the actual expectation of, well, I've just invested in this and now you're telling me that it looks way better on this new thing. I can't afford this new thing. It's a very childish way to look at it, but unfortunately the consumer is childish. Like, you have to pander to your lowest common denominator, and people do think like that.
And once again,
it was interesting.
Farpoint is a game being published by Sony, by I think one of their studios. I'll have to double check that. But like, once again, it's another game that's in-house that they can do that for. I think that was the only VR game that they even suggested was going to get some type of an upgrade from the ones that we've heard that are coming to VR. And apparently it hasn't been previewing well at events either, so that's not, it doesn't get me more or less excited. about that.
Yeah, like, there's been bad. I didn't know there'd been bad things said about. I've not really paid an overt amount of attention to it, to be personal.
Yeah, not bad. It's been like okay, like it's nothing. You know, it's not like when you hear about Batman VR or Star Wars one.
Yeah, like a lukewarm reception.
Yeah, pretty much.
So we're both in the no camp. It's a shame. Obviously, there was only you and I that were available this evening. I will jump and we'll wrap it up there. We did want this to just be sort of a quick conversation about, kind of immediate thoughts about the conference and that kind of thing. I mean, it's not something that we've really had time to digest or go through too much information because we're pretty much dealing with the same information we had this morning. I know that specs have come out and, you can pre-order it now, which is awesome. Here in Australia, $560 is what it's going to cost you.
Seems consistent. Seems fair.
Yeah, as I said to you this afternoon, that's consistent with launch price for the PlayStation 4. So fair enough. That's what I'd have expected. The PlayStation Slim was showing in a couple of different places at different prices. It was somewhere $250, somewhere $239. Sorry, $350, $339 here, which was a bit of a take it as is. It's around the same price you can actually pick a PS4 up for now, isn't it? Which if you're in that bracket, pick the old one up. It's got an optical port on it. Do you know what I mean? Like it's still got technology that this new one doesn't. So interested to see what the reception goes like. 15th of September, PS4 Slim, which is just being dubbed the PS4 now. It's going to replace the base model. And then November for the Pro. So I'm hoping we get to see it at the Expo. That'd be quite neat. See some games running in it. That'd be pretty cool. So yeah, the EB Expo is 3 weeks from today. 3 weeks from tomorrow.
We will be there.
We will be there in full force. Uncle Chunt is coming down from sunny Rockhampton to join us. Dan, you'll be in from Melbourne. I'll be there myself. And I believe Kira will be joining us for the morning. And then she's working in the evening. So yeah, we'll be around. Exciting times. Happy days. Dan, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for the chat.
Going to go carry on being jet lagged and hopefully be awake later than 8 p.m. this evening, which I've not managed once this week. So wish me luck in that, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you very much.